Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Andy the Mad Tatter, and welcome back for August's Part 1 Sales Roundup, or Part 1 of August's Sales Roundup, as that would be in a normal human sentence. Welcome, of course, if it's your first time joining me. My name's Andy. I'm a full-time eBay reseller from Cheshire in the UK, also known as the Mad Tatter online. So we're going to get straight in with some items, but first, I want to say a huge thank you to you all. I've not done this for a little while, and I'm fairly aware of the fact that I've not shown my appreciation to you guys quite as much as I should have done, but thank you so much. We've hit 400 subscribers. I think it's actually 424 at the time of filming this video. So as those of you who've been with me from the beginning know how far beyond my expectations that kind of number is in terms of people subscribing to the channel. I do feel in a lot of ways that I fall short in sort of delivering content and kind of getting videos out there. But I thank you all so much for sticking with me, and you know, there's obviously something that I say and do that you enjoy, and I hope I can continue to do that. So thank you all so much, and let's see where it goes from here, because like I say, this is so far beyond what I ever anticipated doing with YouTube that yeah, I'm amazed, and who only knows where it could go. Also, a quick thing just before we get into the video. Had a couple of comments on the previous sales roundup videos just asking about calculating profits and things like that. So I just wanted to touch on that briefly and just explain to you how I calculate the profits on my sales, how that might differ slightly to the way you calculate profits, or indeed the fees might differ depending on how what sort of eBay account you've got, whether you're a personal eBay account or a business eBay account. Of course, if you are buying items to sell, you are by definition a business and should have a business account. However, if you're just selling your own stuff that you've owned from your home, obviously a personal account's absolutely fine for that. So I'm going to take the example of one of the items that you're going to see in the video here. This is a ladies Nike ACG Parker, which I'll talk a little bit more about when we get to the item. It sold for $69.99. The eBay fees aspect of that sale was £8.40, and that was just encompassed a final value fee. So the final value fee, that's the percentage that eBay takes from the sales price. Now, for business and shop sellers, this can vary by category. So with a private account, I think you have flat fees pretty much across all categories. You pay a fixed percentage. So it's relatively simple to work out from that perspective. However, for a business seller, different categories can have slightly different fees, or slightly discounted or slightly increased fees in some cases. And also, as a business seller, all the fees that eBay charge you are subjected to 20% VAT, which is value-added tax. So again, that does increase your fees aspect slightly, unless you're in a position where you're a VAT registered business and you can claim that back at the end of the year. You have to be in profit. You have to have there's a profit threshold for it, essentially, for being VAT registered. So you don't have to be VAT registered if you're making under a certain amount of profit. So yeah, the VAT aspect, yeah, that's going to be added on if you're a business seller as well. With this particular item, we gave free postage on it, so there was no final value fee to pay on the postage. eBay will also charge that. So in addition to the percentage that they charge for the sale of the item, they also then charge a percentage on anything that you take for the postage. The reason they do this is because years ago, when they weren't doing this, people were basically putting items up for the price of, let's just take this as an example. Somebody would have put this up for the sale price of a penny, or the sale price of £1, with, you know, $68.99 or $69.98 postage on it, because eBay weren't charging a final value fee on postage. So people were kind of trying to manipulate the system and get around fees that way. That was before my time on eBay. That's just something I've sort of read about anecdotally, as to why eBay charge a final value fee on postage. Also, this wasn't sold through a promoted listing, so there was no promoted listing fee to pay. So the eBay fees aspect of that wholesale totals £8.40 there. Then subtract the PayPal fees, which was £2.93. That is still a fixed percentage. Also, because it was free post given, you have to subtract the postage cost from the sale as well, and also then the cost of the item. So all told, this item made $47.16, taking into account all of those deductions. However, what you will actually be left with as cash in hand, because you've already technically paid for this item, you'll be left with the $47.16 plus the £7.50 item cost. It's just for a balance sheet purposes. That's the way I kind of declare it all, that the item costs this much, the item sold for this much, this was the profit, etc. You don't have to go into this level of detail with your own fees and your own sort of profits and things like that by any stretch of the imagination. As always, with any sort of advice that I give you or any kind of input that I give you as to the way I do things, it is literally that. It's just the way I do things. I'm never going to tell you that it's the right way or indeed the best way. You know, always sort of take what I say. If you want to take what I say, if you want to try it out, if it works for you, by all means, that's great. If it doesn't work out for you the same way that it's worked out for me, then you have to chalk it down to sort of everybody's experience being slightly different. So I'm not by any means, you know, a sage or offering you this sort of advice in any professional capacity whatsoever. I'm just here to try and sort of tell you what my experience of the system is and what my experience of the whole process is. So just briefly there, that's how I calculate profits. So we'll get into the first item for August 2019. Didn't have a sale until the 4th of August, so first few days were fairly quiet. However, the month did pick up from there. So the first item there is the Daredevil Yellow Marvel Legends comic. This cost £3.8. It was actually part of a bundle of the very first things I bought to resell. I bought a bundle of comics, not really knowing anything about comics whatsoever, but at the time, things like the Avengers and stuff, all the Avengers films were coming out, and there were a lot of different Marvel films and stuff like that coming out. So I thought, yeah, you know, can't really go wrong with that, even not really knowing anything about the subject matter particularly. Yeah, I've had them for over a year, some of them. I think I've got one, maybe two left now. So they've been a very slow burner, and they've not made a huge amount of money. But as I say, they were the very first things that I bought to resell. Had positive feedback from the buyer on that one. They cost $3.08 because it came as out part of this bundle. Sold for $11.94, and after shipping and fees, made $4.08 profit on that one. 5th of August, this is the Parker that we've just been talking about in the profit section there. This is the ladies' Nike ACG Snow Parker. Knee-length purple, really nice. I picked this up from a charity shop, and the way they had it hung in the charity shop, it looked terrible. It had the fur trim on the collar there can be removed. It's on buttons, and I think the fur trim had been buttoned onto the hood wrong. The hood, not the collar, beg your pardon. Yeah, the fur trim had been buttoned onto the hood wrong, so it kind of made the hood look out of shape. It was hung on a hanger that was miles too small for the coat, so it was just kind of looked all saggy and ridiculous. And there wasn't a price on it in the charity shop either, so I just went and asked them the price, and the woman's face behind the counter when she looked at it, because it just kind of looked like this ratty sort of saggy garment. She just said, you know, $7.50, and with a kind of, if you really want it that badly, tone of voice. So yeah, I bought that one for $7.50, got it home, gave it a clean up, buttoned the fur on the hood there properly, and it looks great. It was in really, really good condition, even down to the lining and everything. There wasn't any sort of bobble into the lining. So just a really nice quality coat all round and in great condition. Took a best offer on that one. It was up at $79.99, sold for $69.99. And made a total profit of $47.16, as we just said on the first part of the video. 6th of August, Golden Compass and Eragon Nintendo DS games. These are just games that have been collected over the years when either Joe's had a DS or I've had a DS at one point or another. We went through phases of just buying cheap games wherever we found them, just to try them out and just to, you know, see if they were any good, essentially. Consequently, we've got loads of games that don't have any boxes or anything like that. So we've kind of bundled games that are thematically similar together. So you've got the Golden Compass and Eragon are both kind of fantasy, platformy stroke RPG type styles of game. And obviously they both follow a film franchise as well. And then we've got stuff like a couple of bundled together where they're puzzle games and stuff like that. Also made these cool little Lego stands. I know it's not much, but these cool little Lego stands for putting them on. But yeah, so that was a free item in that sense. It was owned, sold for $9.94 and made $6.31 after shipping and fees on those. Easy postage as well. They do just go for a large letter on those when they're sort of put between a couple of bits of cardboard and put in a bubble envelope. 6th of August again, Go Clever tablet adapter charger thingy. Not really familiar with what the Go Clever tablet actually is. I assume it's some sort of kid's tablet in the similar sort of vein, maybe as like a Leap Pad or something like that, but maybe for slightly older kids. Regardless, I bought a big bundle of plugs and chargers at some point. If you're new to the channel and you don't know this, I buy a lot of big bundles of plugs, chargers, remote controls and stuff like that, because there's good money to be made in them. If, of course, you are a regular to the channel, or you've been viewing since the beginning, you'll know that I love this sort of stuff. So I bought a big bundle of plugs and chargers for 15 quid that was somebody who's advertised on Facebook Marketplace. Broke it down into the individual items, and each individual item in that bundle worked out at being at a cost of 75p. So this was one of those items, sold for £13.94, made £7.18 after shipping and fees, and had positive feedback from the buyer. 6th of August, Reebok folding yoga mat. This is an item that I've had for a little while. It was brand new in the bag and everything. It was just like a, kind of had a popper closure on the bag, so it wasn't like a sealed thing or anything, hence why I took it all out for the picture, just because it was in one of those really reflective polythene type bags, and it just didn't photograph very well, so that's why I took it all out for the photographs. Cost £4.99 that one. I think it was a charity shop pickup. Sold for £24.94 and made £10.11 after shipping and fees there. 6th of August, vintage Bicon Airband FM band CB band radio receiver. I remember these being quite popular when I was a kid, and I live reasonably close to Manchester Airport, so if I ever go past the airport, in certain areas you quite often see people stood by the runways and stuff with this type of equipment, listening to the radio chatter and stuff like that. You can't broadcast on them or anything, of course, but they are just for reception purposes. This one's from the 1980s. I did look this one up and had found a couple of similar models, very, very, very similar features, and even from a couple of other manufacturers that look the same. So I'm guessing this is kind of a proprietary one that a manufacturer was making and was giving out to sort of different brands like Tandy in the UK or Radio Shack in the US or whatever, around about that sort of time. So this cost £2. Sold really well, $44.94, and made $32.41 after shipping and fees on that one. Yeah, so that was quite a cool little vintage item, something a little bit different that I'd never picked up before either. But I knew from sort of seeing other YouTube videos and things like that that CB radios and CB radio accessories, walkie-talkies, those types of things, they can do quite well in the right circumstances. So I kind of bought this with that kind of thinking in mind. That, people do well with the transmitting stuff, so why wouldn't they necessarily do well with the receiving stuff? And yeah, that was quite a good little sale. I don't think it stuck around for too long either. I don't think it was around for more than a month really, which for something that's a bit more of a quirky item, I don't mind sitting on it for around about a month for it to go. 7th of August, again, another one of my sort of, if you like, bread and butter itoms, things that I really love selling, really love picking up, and really love dealing with. This was the Brother Deluxe 800T mechanical typewriter. I actually took to YouTube myself with this one and watched a few videos on them because there's a lot of different variations on these typewriters, and there's certain different cues that you can pick up to identify them. So I watched a couple of videos on specific features of the Brother Rangers in the era. And yeah, found out exactly which model it was, exactly what features it had, etc, etc. Can't remember those off the top of my head now, of course, which is why I'm kind of slightly stalling. But yeah, it was a really nice condition typewriter. I took the base plate off it and everything, gave it a good internal clean, didn't sort of strip it down into all its component parts or anything like that. I'm not quite confident enough to be doing that with typewriters just yet, but watch this space, I probably will be down the line. So I took it apart as much as I dared, cleaned everything up inside, did a full test sheet there, as I always do with typewriters, and sure enough, that was just not the camera, but that was just quite a relatively quick sale, that one as well. Stuck around for a couple of weeks at most, and sold for the asking price. So it cost £10, sold for a total of £66.94, and made £30 and a penny after shipping and fees on that one. 7th of August, typo, sorry Nana. 7th of August, Nana Cherry Raw Like Sushi Vinyl LP. This is one that I'm selling from the house. Just some vinyl that we've been sort of given by family members and stuff to sell. So yeah, this is one of those. So there's no cost against this one. Sold for £17.94 and made £11.40 after shipping and fees. Also received positive feedback from the buyer. Vinyl and records and stuff is not something that I have any real aspirations into dealing with, in on any kind of major level. simply because I get really paranoid with shipping them. I know that they can be brittle and fragile. I also know that people who collect vinyl are very, very specific and very exacting about what they actually want. So with all of that in mind, I package things to within an inch of their life. I put bits of wood in to sort of, I put thin boards of wood and things like that in there just to kind of brace the record, wrap it in, you know, obsessive amounts of bubble wrap and cardboard and everything. You know, I really sort of take the belt and braces approach to packaging records, and it probably costs me. I wouldn't like to sort of cost out what it would actually be to package a record the way I do it, but I just don't know of any better ways. And people do say about vinyl mailers and stuff like that, but I still sort of look at those and think maybe it's cheaper the way I do it, even so, because a lot of the stuff that I use is kind of with the wood, for instance, that I use for putting in there, it just comes from old bits of furniture that have been taken apart, so old flat pack furniture and stuff like that, where you get the hardboard in the bottom of them. I just cut a strip of that and use that for it, so it's kind of free in that respect. Some of the packaging on those, but yeah, I have no aspirations to get into dealing in vinyl, simply because there's a grading process with them as well, which is quite specific. Things can be mint or near mint and this and that and the other, and I just don't, I'm not enthused by vinyl enough to kind of go out there and pick up all of these different sort of aspects to it. If you are, then absolutely go ahead and do it, because of course there is good money to be made in vinyl. Rare LPs and stuff like that can fetch crazy money, but it's just not really within my realms of interest. I like the music, but I'm not really bothered what format it's on. So yeah, no aspirations to be a vinyl dealer. Sticking with the 7th, this is Midsummer Murders Series 15 and 14. Both went to the same seller, so the figure that you're going to see here is a total. Those DVD box sets came from part of a big bundle of DVDs that I bought, where the costs ended up getting so small that some of the items ended up free because I paid so little for such a big bundle of DVDs. I've said this a few times in videos, but just recapping for anybody who's new to the channel. So this total sale price for the 2 box sets, this one and this one, total selling price for the 2 box sets was $33.93, made $24.94 after shipping and fees on those. 8th of August, own item. This is just a Blu-ray player I bought a year or so ago, and honestly have maybe watched Blu-rays twice on it. So yeah, that had to go because it was just useless sitting in the corner, really. Samsung BD E5800M smart Blu-ray player. Yeah, it's got hard drive and stuff on there, so you can download apps on it. It's got like a Freeview tuner built in and stuff like that. It was a bit of an all singing, all dancing one, to be fair, but it was one that got in a sale anyway, so didn't pay a huge amount for at the time. So owned this one, sold for $123.94 and made $98.95 after shipping and fees. 8th of August again. Right, vintage in inverted commas. Vintage is a word which is banded around so much on eBay with different items and stuff like that. Of course, you have your genuine vintage items, which are items of age, or you know, but you also have, to my mind, you have items that are vintage within their own sort of sphere of existence, if you like. So, in terms of a digital answering machine, which is this is audio line digital answering machine, this is vintage. This is an early iteration of a digital answering machine. So in that sense, it is vintage within its own realm of existence, but it's not really vintage in terms of having a huge amount of age to it. And I think I actually elaborated on that in the listing, because I don't like describing things as vintage and trying to pass them off as older than they are or anything like that. But certainly, you know, vintage fits for the description of that item, in my mind anyway. So it cost £4 that one, sold for $24.94 and made $14.15 after shipping and fees. On to the 9th of August, this was a very early purchase of mine. In fact, probably one of the first car boots I ever went to start buying for reselling that I picked this up at. You might have seen in a sales roundup video a little while ago, I sold a red Transformer as well, an Optimus Prime. And I spoke in that video about how long that took me to do, and it was quite embarrassing how long it took me to do, even with instructions. This is the polar opposite of that. This is what they call the flip and switch one. So basically his legs were spring-loaded, and he had a handle on his back, you just kind of bashed his legs down on the desk, or on whatever surface, and then the whole sort of transformation, he just kind of pops out. It's not as detailed as some of the more advanced Transformers, but it's very much the kind of easy mode version, I guess, for younger kids. So this one costs £3, sold for £12.94, and made £3.65 after shipping and fees. I've probably had that on eBay for a year, so it's made about a penny a day in that sense. August the 9th... words. 9th of August 2019, Technics SLBD22FG Servo Turntable. This was my first sort of toe being dipped into higher end audio systems. I know that Technics are by no means the very top end of audio systems, but they're certainly a cut above the like the Sonys and things like that I had been dealing in before. Sony, of course, still an excellent brand, but as with all excellent brands, there's always one that's excellenter. This one was another lesson for me, actually, in terms of don't sit on an item. You know, if it needs a little thing doing to it, just get it done and get it sold, because this item sold within 24 hours of being listed, but I'd had it in my inventory for about 2 weeks because it needed a drive belt for it. I ordered the drive belt up, and the drive belt came within maybe 10 days of me actually... No, not even 10 days. It's got to be less than a week of me actually sort of having this item in stock and realising it needed this. It came within less than a week, the belt, and then I sat on it for a bit longer, being lazy and not putting the belt on it, because again, I was doing a lot of sorting elsewhere and stuff like that as well, so kind of stock took a little bit of a back burner. The belt was really easy to fit, you know, so there was no excuses in terms of, oh, it was too complicated to do or anything like that. So I was sat on an item there that basically made me 70 quid in a day, and I'd sat on it for, you know, 2 to 3 weeks probably, just not doing anything with it out of sort of just nothing else other than laziness, I guess, or being diverted elsewhere. So it cost $24.75. Did have it up at $124.99. It would have sold at $124.99 as well. It cost me 20 quid, and then £4.75 was the belt. So that's how I factor in parts as well. So if you've got any repairs to an item or anything like that, I always add it onto the cost price of the item. So it sold for 100 quid on offer, and it sold locally to somebody who came and picked it up. So actually, I was quite happy to lose the $24.99 and have somebody come and pick that up who could see it working there and then, who I knew would be happy with it straight away, and who I knew that I wouldn't have to, you know, potentially have to give a partial refund to because, oh, they found X, Y, or Z fault with it, or, you know, I wouldn't have to then pay for something that's been damaged in transit or something like that. So losing that 25 quid off my asking price, which, like I say, it would have sold at that price anyway, because there were a lot of comps that had sold at the same sort of money. But to take the 25 quid off it, to sell it within the day, and to not have the worry that there's going to be some issue with it, it was worth dropping that 25 quid for me. We also got positive feedback from the buyer as well, so that was a good one. Definitely look out for Technics stuff as well there. 10th of August, vintage Reproduction Salter balance scales. Definitely Reproduction items, because the nameplate on the front there was a sticker. It wasn't like one of the riveted on brass plates or anything like that. And also just the overall kind of weight and feel of them. You could definitely tell they were a Reproduction. I don't know if the genuine ones go for huge sums of money or anything like that. But Salter certainly are a good brand in this type of KitchenAlia scales and things like that. This had the full set of weights with it as well, so it was kind of a ready-to-go set of scales. This was another really quick seller. I think this sold within 2 to 3 days of being listed. So I was quite pleasantly surprised by that one. I knew it would sell because there were a lot of comps there on eBay. So I knew that they had been selling, but I didn't expect for a minute that it was going to sell as quickly as it did. So that cost me £2 in a local charity shop, sold for $38.94 and made $17.77 after shipping and fees there. 10th of August, Coomber 2020-7 PA speaker / cassette system. So this actually sold to a performing arts centre, which I guess is exactly the sort of place where you would expect it to go. And what do I really need to say about it? It's a PA speaker system that you can plug a microphone into or plug an instrument into. It's also got a cassette recorder on there, so you can record whatever's being sort of played, whatever's being put through the system. And yeah, it was quite a simple, all sort of self-contained unit, nice condition. I think it dated from around about 2000 and 2005, something like that. So it wasn't a particularly old unit, but not a particularly new one either. Cost £8 at a car boot sale, sold for £76.94, and made £42.11 after shipping and fees on that one. I'll always have a look at things like this when I see them at car boots. I'm by no means an expert in this kind of area, but I did spend a number of years in a band, and as such, kind of know my way a little bit around certain audio equipment and stuff like that. I was by no means the audio guy of the band, but you do pick up a certain amount of information by association. So I've had a little bit of I've dipped my toe in that little area of life before as well, and hence I'll always pick up things like microphones and stuff like that if it's the right sort of brand. So yeah, sold for £76.94, made £42.11 after shipping and fees on that one. 11th of August, so we had some cake tins. This was a snowman, a Santa, a pumpkin, and a skull. All four went to the same buyer, so this figures a total. Cost £2. Sold for $24.91 altogether and made $14.66 after shipping and fees on those. £2 was the total cost, so they were a good little buy really at a car boot. Definitely cake tins, I think some of the branded ones certainly do very well. I forget what brands they actually are off the top of my head though. Wilton, that's the name of the brand. If you see Wilton cake tins, they tend to be the ones that go for the highest sort of highest money, certainly. But you know, certainly thematic ones for the right times of year. Obviously, we've got Halloween and Christmas coming up at the moment, so having those Halloween and Christmas tins, that's probably what sold them in all fairness, because they weren't a particularly special tin or a particularly special brand. 11th of August, Sony Handycam AC power adapter. You know, bread and butter stuff for me, chargers, battery chargers, power adapters, remotes, those types of things. It's all my kind of bread and butter stuff. This one cost £1 at a car boot. I bought it on its own. It wasn't part of a bundle or anything like that. Sold for $24.49 within about 2 weeks of listing, and made $16.11 after shipping and fees on that one. Had positive feedback from the buyer as well, but also had a really good message from the buyer when they received it. So she says, hi, I just wanted to thank you on behalf of my father for the charger he received today. He's 86 and mislaid his original one, so he was delighted that I could get him a replacement. He spent a rainy afternoon looking through years of old videos. He had a funny complaint that I thought I'd pass on to you. He said it arrived 2 days early. Many thanks. I've said to you before in previous videos, I love this sort of thing from buyers. I think a lot of other eBayers will relate to what I'm about to say. Sometimes when a notification goes off on your phone or something like that, and it's a message notification, and you see that it's a message regarding an item that you've already sold, you have that little moment where your heart sinks slightly and you think, oh, what's happened, or oh, what's wrong, or something like that. And of course, this being an item that I'd sold and shipped and then received this message relatively soon after, I kind of had a moment of that. I thought, oh, don't tell me they've received it and it doesn't work with their camera or something like that. I knew it worked because it was tested before it went out, but no, I got this message and I thought it was quite funny, you know, that it arrived 2 days early, because obviously when you post something, eBay gives the buyer a projection of when they expect it to arrive. So obviously this arrived a lot quicker than eBay expected it to, and that's where he's got it arrived 2 days early from. But you know, it's always nice to have those happy customers like that, and those satisfied customers that not only take the time to leave you a positive feedback comment on your account, but also just to get in touch with you and sort of connect a bit more personally. I love stuff like that, because I do stuff like that myself with things that I buy. So that was just a little diversion on that one. 11th of August then, Soap and Glory Sugar Crush set, part of something that I think Joe got bought for Christmas a year or so ago, and has never used. So we're just kind of selling up all of that sort of thing out of the house as well, really, at the moment. Don't overlook toiletries, certainly. I've done quite well with body sprays as well in the past. I sold some body sprays over Christmas last year that were FC UK ones that had been discontinued for a couple of years, and they sold really well. They sold for about £8 or £9 a tin, with postage on them as well. I was charging sort of £4 post on them, and still selling them for sort of £8 or £9 a tin. So don't overlook toiletries, certainly, especially when it comes up to Christmas, and especially things that are discontinued or that are kind of rare toiletries as well. Definitely worth looking out for. So no cost price on that one, sold for £10.94 and made £6.04 after shipping and fees. 11th of August, Gran Turismo, PlayStation 2 and 3... Gran Turismo... Words. Gran Turismo 2 and 3, PlayStation 2, Black Label games. It's written in front of me, I just can't read it in the order that it's written in for some reason. Maybe because my eyes are swapped places. Yeah, said it before about the Black Band PlayStation games. They're the original releases, they're not re-releases or Game of the Year editions or anything like that, so they tend to be the ones, in my experience, that command the better money. And I always tend to try and make little bundles of games as well, so obviously in this case it's Gran Turismo 3 and 4, but it could equally be, you know, a couple of Call of Duty games or a couple of Medal of Honor games. I've done Splinter Cells, things like that as well. So yeah, I do tend to make little bundles with them like that, because I always think you can ask a little bit more for a bundle as well. People do have this mentality that if you're buying multiple things in a bundle, it should be cheaper. But I sort of beg to differ on that one, to be honest with you, because I think if a seller has gone to the work of putting that bundle together and rounding up all of those games for you that you would otherwise have to go and find yourself, then really speaking, you owe that seller for doing that. You know, that's kind of that kind of adds a premium to the product because you've gone to that trouble. So I'm not talking a huge premium, don't get me wrong. This sold for $14.99 altogether. I think probably the total sale price of the games individually, had I done it like that, would have been about $12.99. Maybe $11.99. So I've not put a huge premium on it for the fact that you've got the two games there, but I still think it's worth it to someone who wants to collect them or wants to have the full series or whatever. So that's another little tip there, is that I tend to I do tend to do that with bundles of both games and DVDs. So these were a Harry Potter, they were £1 each, £2 in total. £1 each. I completely spoilt my own pun by saying these are a Harry Potter, they're £1 each. It's a quid each, innit? It's my own pun and I've just ruined it. Anyway. Shall I just start this video again? No. Right, crack on. Total item cost £2. Total selling price $18.49, made $10.78 after shipping and fees, and the less said about that whole incident, the better. 11th of August, Sharp EL1607R desktop printing calculator. These are a little area that I've just recently touched on, kind of off the back of selling a lot of electronic typewriters and things like that. Started dipping my toe into other sort of office appliances and equipment and accoutrement. And yeah, this one sold quite quickly. Listed for about a week, I seem to think. It was boxed. It didn't have anything beyond the box, though. It was just there. What you see is what you get. It just happens to come in its original box. Cost £2 at a car boot. Sold for $39.94 and made $26.93 after shipping and fees. 11th of August again, the iDect Loop Plus cordless phone. This is another one of those kind of neo-retro style phones. It's got a bit of a modernised equivalent of an older style, if you like. Had an answering machine built in as well, this one. Sold for £2, didn't sell for £2.50. Cost £2.50, sold for $27.94 and made $18.33 after shipping and fees on that one. 12th of August, these may well have been in a haul video or a pickups video that I did at some point. I can't remember because it's been so long since I've done one. However, I'm pretty sure these have definitely been on camera before. These are the Diesel Aquila leather and suede trainers. They were in as new condition, really, and the way I could tell that was there's some suede that you can probably just see on the edges of the shoes here, that actually wrapped underneath as well, and then the rubber grip doohickeys of the sole came through that suede. So if those had been worn outside prior to me selling them, or prior to me having them or anything like that, that suede, you can tell, would have been ruined quite quickly. So I was quite confident that these were nearly new in that sense, although you can't advertise anything like that on eBay. I advertised them as used, in fact, but I said I felt that they were so good that they would almost pass for new, and I'll always put that in a description for things if I feel that way about them. So these cost $5.50, sold for $39.94 and made $23.67 after shipping and fees. Also received positive feedback from the buyer on those. Sticking with the 12th of August, these have definitely been in a video before. These are the Puma Kart Cat Mid leather racing boots shoes. Really cool looking shoes. I'm a big fan of the Puma brand, as you might have picked up on in previous videos. I'm also a sort of car person, a car nut. So these kind of, in the Venn diagram of me, these were right in the middle with the kind of petrol head side and the Puma fan side. Cost $7.50, sold for $64.94 and made $41.87 on those after shipping and fees, and they went to the USA on the global shipping program. Really cool. They had they're designed for karting. So in a go-kart, you literally only have 2 pedals, and you use 1 foot on each pedal pretty much. It's not like driving an automatic car where you use 1 foot on both pedals. You have a pedal on either side of the steering column, so you kind of got 1 pedal on one outer edge and 1 pedal on the other. So one sole had power written on it and one sole had brake written on it and stuff like that. They're just really kind of a little bit gimmicky, but not tacky in that sense, and in the style of them as well. They're very much your kind of classic racing shoe style. So yeah, these were a really cool item. Unfortunately, it didn't fit me. Otherwise, I might have been tempted to keep them. But yeah, they were a good sale nonetheless. 13th of August. The Simpsons Santa's Little Helper plush. I have been slowing down with plushes a little bit. I've not been buying nearly as many as I have done in the past. However, I'll still pick up odd ones here and there if they're cheap enough, and case in point, this one was only 50p in a charity shop. It sold for $17.94 and made $10.54 after shipping and fees. Now, recently, a YouTube channel I subscribe to, and one that I would definitely recommend you subscribe to, particularly if you're interested in sort of older pieces, antiquities and things like that. The channel's called Antiques Arena, and I'm going to give you a little link to his channel down in the bottom there. Chap's name's Edward. He owns a antiques shop in Wales, in the valleys as well. He's been in business for quite a few years from what I can tell doing this, but one of his recent videos that he put out was about starting as a reseller with very little money. And that kind of, I watched that video and I thought, yeah, I'm into that way of thinking, because as I've said before in videos, I do believe that anybody can get into doing this, and there's no kind of constraints. The only constraints are the ones that you put on yourself. So for something like this as an item, you can pick this up for 50p and make £10 profit on it. So you can then, if you're just starting out, you can then take that £10 profit and go and buy other things, and just snowball the money and keep building that snowball. Reinvest, build a snowball, reinvest. And then obviously, you will come to a point where you can start taking stuff out of that, and that then becomes almost your wage, or, your bit of the money. But this is kind of a good case study of how you can pick something up for next to nothing and make a good return on it. Although 10.54 is not a massive profit in and of itself, against a 50p item, it's pretty phenomenal. So yeah, I'll leave a link, as I say, to Antiques Arena down below there, and I would definitely urge you to go and check out his channel if you haven't done already. 15th of August, vintage Solitaire marble game. This was made by House of Marbles, I think they're called, down in Devon. It was a vintage-ish piece, and the way that I dated this one was, you might just be able to see on that picture just above my finger there, that's actually a label on the bottom, a maker's name. On the maker's label, it had their address and their telephone number, and in the UK, it was it the early 90s? I want to say it was sometime in the early 90s. We had an extra digit added into the phone numbers, essentially. So if an area code previously would have been 061, that area code then became 0161. And the way I was able to date this as being pre that date, I can't remember the date off the top of my head, but I can check it definitely afterwards and put a little thingy on screen. I was able to date this as being pre that date because the telephone number on there didn't have the leading one in it. So yeah, big, about, what was it, 13.5-inch board, so it's kind of a big board with nice sturdy glass marbles. I also went onto this company's website. They are still in business, and some of their Solitaire sets were going for really, really good money new. They make some incredibly high quality pieces, and I'm really into these traditional games. I sell sort of chess sets and things like that. I'm starting to sort of dip my toe into dominoes as well now, as opposed to just the pizzas, the actual little games. And also, yeah, things like this, the Solitaire, I like these traditional games because I think they just speak to so many people. There are only so many people who are fans of your kind of Cluedos and Monopolies and stuff like that. But I don't know, anybody can almost pick up some of these old games and start playing them and develop a fondness for them, because you don't have to kind of get as invested in the characters and all the kind of sort of extra... I'm fluffing a lot of words today, but a lot of these games that have these inflated kind of backstories and things like that to them, modern board games and stuff like that, you don't have that with these traditional games. It is literally, this is the game and this is how you win it. And I think that speaks to a lot of different people in a lot of different walks of life, and that's why these kind of traditional games, I do feel, will always be popular. This was a charity shop pickup, cost me £2.99, sold on a best offer for a total of £52.94 and made £28.58 after shipping and fees on that one. And that is the end of part 1 there, guys. So thank you very much for sticking with me again on this one. If you did enjoy the video, do feel free to leave me a like down below. If you didn't enjoy the video, do feel free to leave a dislike. But either way, please don't just thumb and run. Do let me know what you did and didn't like, and I'll try and adjust my videos accordingly. If you enjoy the videos and want to see more, do feel free to hit subscribe there as well, and give the bell just a little tickle, just so you get notified of when I upload videos, because I am a little bit sporadic at the moment. But again, guys, thanks a lot and have a great day, and I'll speak to you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.